Coming up next on Walking with Dad.
And in that moment, I realized, like, oh, snap. If he was not selfish in that moment to try to get home to his family, me and you wouldn't even be having this conversation today. The doctor said there was no saving, you would have died immediately, because that's divine protection.
And welcome back to another great episode of Walking with Dad here, where we give dads and fathers an opportunity to basically have their voice and give their opinion and their side of being a father, being a dad, present in their children's lives and in the family's life. We want to welcome you back to another episode. On this week, we have yet another great guest of mine. If you've been tuning into the podcast, we've had such great guests already in place. But this guest on today, I initially met him indirectly through Instagram, one of the social media platforms, obviously. And on Instagram, at the time that I came across him initially, I do believe they had advertisements that were showing up on my feed. And, obviously enough, being interested in what all he had to talk about, I tuned into him. And over time, I just started to notice just how much value that he was sharing anytime that he was speaking, especially through Instagram. So began to follow him, check out his stories, his any kind of lives that he might have had, any kind of content, follow him on the YouTube, so on and so forth. And today I actually have the great opportunity of sitting with him, and you all do as well. So without further ado, I want to welcome Mr. Riyad Jones. Riyad, how you doing today, man?
What's going on, my brother? Thanks for having me on today.
Yes, sir, man. So, um, yeah, man. So, like I had said, I got a chance to meet you indirectly, of course, through Instagram. And I don't know, man. Like, I think were you actually running advertisements on Instagram once upon a time?
Yep.
Cool, man. So I am the success story, I guess you could say, of when somebody is running those advertisements and reaching out to somebody that you don't. Yeah, man. But like I said, you've always been a person that's shared value, man, and I appreciate that. And I know that Walking with Dad will be able to get into a little bit more of that as we get along with talking today, man. But just briefly, if you could just share with us and tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, man. So again, thanks for having me. My name is Riyad. I just turned 31 here recently. And at the end of the day, man, I'm excited about life. I'm excited about what's going on in my life. I'm excited about going through the process of becoming more than I've been before. And I think that everything that we go through is for a reason, and everything has its benefits, even though we don't understand it all. When it's happening, God never takes us through anything for no reason. Everything has a lesson, something that can be learned from. And so my background is football. I played football my entire life. I thought that football was going to be my way to make it and be my meal ticket, to be honest with you. But it wasn't, obviously. But those lessons and those experiences that I had helped me become the person that I am today. Because again, God doesn't waste experiences. And so all of the things that I've learned in sports helped me transition into business, entrepreneurship, becoming a leader amongst people, dealing with people of different personality types and all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm a son of God. I believe that I am Christ on earth, Christ in action, and God chooses to live through me, through his son. And I'm here. So, man, again, thanks for having me on.
Man, that's wonderful, man. I'm not going to talk too much about myself, but as you were on the football field playing, I was actually in the band along the sidelines, man. So that's kind of cool how that worked out. But one thing I do have to say about you as well, man, just a little bit that I've gotten a chance to tune into your work and like you've spoken about your results is that you are not a closet believer. As you've just spoken of, like just straight out the gate, that you're a child of God, you're a believer. Why would you say that that's important, maybe just altogether, but specifically for your life?
Man, because I recognize that this life is short and it's not going to be forever. It's a blip in comparison to eternity. And so for me, I recognize that when we leave here, we go somewhere else. And I want that somewhere else to be secured through faith. Everything else that we experience on earth is a benefit of that faith. So the results, the fruit is a benefit from being in Christ. And so for me, I learned that, I mean, my walk with God started, I obviously as a kid going to church and things of that sort, but I was a kid that maybe you can relate. I slept in church a lot. I wasn't really paying attention in church. Like I was there, but it didn't really affect me because I'm a child. I'm immature. I don't really understand these things in totality. But as you get older, you start to mature and understand, like, wait a minute, there is a God that sits high and looks low and who also lives within and he sees everything. And so for me, that's important at the end of the day. It's important to have a real relationship, not be a closet believer, but you're open, you're out with your faith. Because when you change and you become more internally, it's hard for it to not show externally if it's real. And so for me, I've been through real experiences with God. It's not something that, oh, I went to church, my mom told me about God. Like, no, I've been through real experiences and real encounters, borderline death, and God saved me. So for that, I owe him everything. And that's still not enough.
Now you said borderline death. What all occurred there?
Yeah, man. So when I was in college, this was 2013. This was when I started to really understand that number one, my life had purpose and my life had meaning. But number two, God was protecting me. So when I was in college, man, like I said, I played football at the University of Tennessee and we were in practice. This was August 10th, 2013. I'm running and I feel this cramp in my leg. And I'm like, dang, this cramp is really paining me. And so I look to the sideline. I tell my coach, I'm like, yo, coach, I need to come out. My leg is on fire. He was like, man, you only got 2 plays left. Go ahead and finish them up. I'm like, all right, bet. I'm trying to get the starting spot. You feel what I'm saying? Well, maintain the starting spot because I had it at the time. A whole nother story. But anyway, so I'm running and I keep feeling this pain in my leg. So I go to the locker room and I lay down, I take like a nap. And this is football camp. So when you take a nap in the locker room, everybody gonna be gone by the time you wake up because people trying to get up out of there. And so I wake up, everybody's gone. I'm like, dang, everybody done left already. So I go to the training room and I ask the trainer, can he give me Normatec for my leg? Now, for those that don't know, Normatec is a boot that you put on your leg or any part of your body that can squeeze the pressure to like alleviate the pain, alleviate the stress that's in your muscle groups. And so I asked for the Normatec and my trainer like, yo, bro, it's like 9 o'clock. I'm trying to get home. We got to be up here at 3 a.m. for training and all this kind of stuff. So I really don't want to give you that right now, but I can give you an ice bag and come see me in the morning. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll take the ice bag. That night, about 4 a.m, I wake up and my leg, it looks like it's a cantaloupe in my leg. That's how swollen it was. Like maybe a little dramatic with the description, but that's to say how big my calf muscle was. And it was red. I couldn't even walk. So I called my mom and she was like, man, you need to go to the training room. So I wake up, take a little nap, wake up, go to the training room. They look at my leg and they immediately knew that something was wrong. We go to the hospital. Now I'm kind of panicking. I'm like, well, what's going on now? Because they got this look on their face. And so I go to the hospital and they take me to like the hematoma cancer unit. So I'm like, why am I in the cancer wing? So now my heart is really like pacing. I'm like, they got me in the cancer unit. I'm really looking at children with cancer that's dying with their parents. So at this point, perspective is really starting to hit me about life. And so I go get like MRIs and tests on my leg. And the doctor comes back in like an hour later and he was like, man, you not getting the Normatec saved your life last night. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, man, do you know if the trainer would have put that boot on your leg, you would have died within 30 seconds, if that. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you have a blood clot in your leg the size of a golf ball. And if the blood clot would have broken off, it would have traveled to your heart immediately and you would have died. And in that moment, I realized like, oh, snap, because that's divine protection. Because the trainer, he didn't know that I had a blood clot or not had a blood clot. I just told him my leg was in pain. But if he wasn't selfish in that moment, if he was not selfish in that moment to try to get home to his family, and he would have put that blood clot on my leg, me and you wouldn't even be having this conversation today because the blood clot was that big and it would have traveled to my heart, stopping all the blood flow, die on impact right there on the training table at 21, 22 years old.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Wow.
Yep. So that, it gave me perspective. And that's when my journey with God really started. I wasn't all the way deeply in it how I am now because I was still young. I'm in college. I'm still living my life. I'm still doing whatever. But that's when that seed was really, really planted because I had this experience. And from that, that's when I started to open my Bible, get in my word and things of that sort. But that was the moment where I realized like God protected me, saving me for something because I could have died that night, but he saved me. Literally, without a question. I asked for something that could have killed me immediately, unknowingly, but that was the divine protection of God.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
That is a story of stories. Wow.
Yes, sir.
That's a line in itself that you literally asked for something that could have.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow. And so you said 21, that was what, every bit of almost 10 years ago for you now?
Yep. So
Man.
yeah, it was because I just turned 31. This was in 2013, so 10, 11 years ago. Yep.
Wow. Goodness. Man. Wow. Yeah, we could stay there the whole episode. Oh man. Wow. And I like to have alone time with God, first things in the morning for me getting my day started.
Mhm.
And through different devotionals that I read along with the scriptures, and maybe a couple of sermons listening to as well, that it's amazing that we're at times brought to those points that it's like the worst of the worst, or as you had mentioned, like the near death experiences for us to actually then wake up and God gets our attention.
Mhm.
And sometimes it might not necessarily be a physical something or like, a car accident or an illness. Sometimes it could be something financial
Yeah.
that can, mess with our heads and everything, our mental. So wow, I appreciate you filling us in with that story, man. Your truth, your testimony, rather, because that is very much so vital.
Mhm.
Um, and obviously, it's further than us not being able to have this conversation right now, but it's not even being able to experience these past 10 years for you now with wife and child or children rather. So wow. Okay, so back
Especially now.
back on track, man. So, okay, so that was 21 for you. So let's take it even further back for you. You mentioned coming up in church, and obviously having gone through that phase of a lot of us. Some people had that story that it's like, even from a child, I was just always, intrigued about God and just paid attention. All that. A lot of us also don't have that story. That it's like, man, it was nap time whenever the preacher got up, man. So, what well, lighter note, way lighter note. What kind of church did you come up in by chance?
Non-denominational. So I
Okay.
didn't come up Baptist or Pentecostal. So my church experience as a kid was very chill. I like my wife, she grew up in like a Baptist church, so she has different type of stories. And I have friends that, came up in like the Kojic or the Pentecostal. So they have like wilder type of stories. But me, I went to a non-denominational, very chill church anniversary every year. Nothing too crazy. So I don't have like wild church stories as a child, but I did participate, on praise team, praise dancing, and kind of stuff like that. But for the most part, man, this is the time where seeds were planted in me for future time. Because when I would look back as I began to get older, I would remember some of the stories that I heard as a kid in church. And so when I started to read my word for me, I could always revert back like, man, I heard this before. I remember this. I remember what the pastor said about this particular situation or this particular story, and I was able to find deeper meaning and revelation. And yeah, just being in an environment of believers, you naturally just get the things deposited in you. When you spend time in the house of God, it's just a byproduct of being in it. Certain things just get deposited in you. So I'm grateful for that. I wasn't sleeping in church every single Sunday, but I was getting some drools in a lot.
Hey, with you mentioning the word yet again, before we finish, I want to bring back up Noah. You had a call one time that you had made a very great point about Noah. I want to make sure to remember that before we in our conversation today. But from your upbringing in church, were or are both of your parents in the picture, or how was that experience
Yeah,
for
man.
you?
So, both my parents are still married today, which is a blessing. I think they've been married for 30. I'm 31, so they've been married for 33 years. now, which is awesome because in the Black community, it's very rare for people to be married that long in this generation, just keeping the buck. And so, but my dad, for 10 years of my life, my dad wasn't necessarily in my life, not because he didn't want to be, but because he was working overseas. And so when I look back, I wish I would have had my dad for certain moments, like playing sports and having that male figure, father figure. But then I also think, well, maybe it would have turned out different if he was here. So it's like a double-edged sword type of thing where it's like a give and take type of vibe. But back in the day, like we didn't have technology how we have it now. We didn't have Zoom and all these different platforms to speak to people through the internet. So me and my dad would be writing letters to each other. But the letters would take so long to get to Afghanistan and Iraq. By the time I wrote them something, I done had so much more experiences in school, so many more encounters or whatever the case may be. And so it would take 2-3 months to get a letter, and then when we would talk on the phone back in the day, it used to be a grip for a phone call overseas. Like my mom used to spend so much money on the phone bill, and we could only talk to my dad like maybe like once every 2 weeks or once a week or something like that. So it was very challenging. And I was like 9 years old when he left. And I remember the moment that he left. I mean, I cried the whole way to the airport, the whole way back. But he had to do it to benefit our family. My dad was making six figures overseas. This was early 2000s. And so my life that I lived as a child, we weren't rich, but we were very well off in our neighborhood for a certain period of time. So my dad's my hero. At the end of the day, he's my hero because he taught me sacrificing for your family. In his background, coming from the streets of Detroit, growing up in the crack era, being a drug dealer, being in gangs and getting shot 5 times and saying, I got to move, I got to transition and all this kind of stuff, man. So my dad, without a doubt, is my hero, but he wasn't in the picture all the way for like maybe 10 years. So I really grew up with my mom. My mom was like the one that was taking me to all my football camps, taking me to school, making sure I'm involved in extracurricular activities. But my dad was the one that was bringing home the bacon so that my mom could do that. So they both played parts of me becoming who I am today.
Wow, man. And what branch was your dad in the military?
He was in the army, but when he went overseas when I was 9, it was for a contracting job. So he was working on like telephone poles and electronic stuff. I think he got out of the military when I was like maybe 4 or 5 or something like that.
All right, man. Well, even in that way, military once upon a time, and then even that service overseas, especially in Afghanistan, definitely kudos and thank your dad for his service in that respective way. So for roughly a decade or so, and it's crazy, man. Like you might get off this call today, man, and have to look up the significance of the number 10, man, because 10 has been just ringing in your life.
For real though, now I think about it, that.
But so mom's was in the picture for you for roughly a full decade, man. So I'm not going to say she took on the fatherhood role. She was just being mother, and she was the present role for you. So how was that time frame for you when dad was still overseas?
Man, for the most part, I don't have anything negative to say. I think everything was all good for the most part. My mom, she did everything that she could to make sure that we didn't, have this void of our dad not being there. Because I have a little brother as well. So we didn't have this void of dad's missing or dad's not around, dad's not here. She always went above and beyond to make sure that we were good in all aspects. So I never grew up with, like I say, a void. She always made sure that we were good. And so my mom, real deal backbone for our family still to this day, a real soldier, even though she wasn't in the military.
You ain't got to necessarily be in the military to be. So that's cool, man. So you had your church upbringing. You did and you do have both parents in the picture. And I don't know, man, just the fact that you did and you do have mom and dad in the picture for you, and even for you, like how you said, your younger brother, how much of a difference has that played out for you just throughout your life?
Man, I think it's been when I look at people that I know who don't have a father in their life, like, cause like for me, I didn't come up in, upper echelon neighborhood. I came up in the hood. We would just so happen to be some of the most, we had money in the hood, essentially because my dad was overseas, but we didn't grow up in just the greatest environment. So a lot of my friends that I came up with, that I would play basketball with, football with, ran a neighborhood with, they didn't have fathers. And so when I look at who they are today, who they become today, a lot of people are still doing what we were doing as kids. They're still in the hood, they're still on the block, they're still running around doing nothing. And for me, I can know for my life, even though my dad wasn't physically present, he was still present. You follow what I'm saying? He would still come home every 6 months. We would still talk to my dad frequently. And as the years went by, I want to say like when I turned about maybe 12 or 13, I started hitting my teenage years. We were talking to my dad way more because technology had now come around. I remember like Uvu and Skype started to become a thing, like, and all this kind of stuff. This is when we could talk to my dad way more often because we had the webcams and stuff like that. So then I would talk to my dad way more, so even though he wasn't physically there, his presence was still around. So I think me having both my parents in the type of environment that I came up in, it was very vital to who I am today.
Good stuff, man. You taking it back with Uvu, man. Like Skype is one thing, but Uvu. Um, I want to take it's relative, but it's gonna be off to the side a little bit. Only because I was thinking about this and I want to share it with you. Going to different like ceremonies and celebratory events for like the younger kids and things of that nature just over recent years. Usually when it's announced from like a podium or something like that, they'll be like, this is the child and their parent is the mother, usually. However, I mean, if we're going to take it there, biblically, just altogether, it takes two to create the child.
Absolutely.
So in society, why is it, or even how is it that though the mother might be the present parent and the father might not be as present or even responsible, how is it that in society we found it to be cool to say that the child only has one parent?
Yeah, man, I think it's systematically done that way. When you look back over, history and you look at how welfare was created, these different government programs where a father couldn't be in the home because that would mean too much money, so they can't have this government assistance. This is systematically done to remove fathers out of the house because when you don't have a father in the house, you have and we're seeing it today with how they're changing, the way in which like everything is changing from like a gender role and a femininity thing. Men are becoming more feminine. They're putting men in dresses on covers of Vogue and all this stuff. It's done systematically because if you remove the masculinity from the man in the home and the child doesn't have that role model, that example, they only have their mom, you naturally get softer men, or you get men that don't have a genuine care for certain things. They don't really stand on principles and business how they should because they never saw before. It was never exemplified. And so there's a lot of reasons as to why men aren't present. But if we want to just really take it there, I believe it's systematically done that way. Obviously, men have to still step up to the plate and do what they're supposed to do as the second person in this two-part thing to create a child. Very important that they do that. But from a system standpoint, this is how the higher ups they want it this way. They want men to be absent from that because now they can start to begin to control how men see themselves. And if men don't see themselves how God sees them, if they don't see themselves as the king that they are, they naturally just submit to life and they accept life. They never become great as they should be. And so they never have a voice in society that can lead to change. And they can never control different narratives because they're in the background.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, that's tough stuff. You had mentioned coming up in the hood. Where exactly was hood home for you?
Columbus, Georgia, Forest Road, East Side. Yep. It's when I was coming up, it wasn't as rough as it is today. Today it's way worse. But when I was coming up, man, it was still had a lid on things for the most part. But now it's becoming a lot worse. My parents, they don't live in that side of town or that area anymore. They actually moved a few years ago. But when we were coming up, it had a lid on things, but now it's pretty rough over there now.
Man, okay.
Yep. And again, the hood for people is relative. Like my hood, somebody may go to somewhere in Compton and be like, man, this ain't no hood. Or they may go somewhere in DC and be like, bro, this ain't no hood. Where you at? But it's all relative. And where I'm from, where I live at, that's the trenches.
Man.
That's the trenches.
Yeah. And so also too, how many kids do you have? And if you have more than one kid or more than one child, are they, all boys, all girls, mixture?
Yeah, so I'm blessed to have three boys. Three boys. So yeah, my oldest, his name is Adam. He is about to be 14. Funny story about Adam, or not funny story, interesting story, I should say. I didn't know Adam was my child until he was 9 years old. So since we're speaking about fatherhood, my son for 9 years, he didn't even really know who his father was. I didn't even know I had a child out here. You follow me? And so back in 2019, when I found out that I was having my second son, he's Keegan, who's 5 now, this is when I found out I had another child named Adam, who was 9. So in 1 year, I went from having this thought of I'm about to have one child, so I got two kids, and one of them 9. And so that was a process over the past few years of me just learning how to be a dad to somebody that I'm just now knowing who is 9. You know what I mean? So it started off as me just trying to be like friend. I'm trying to just build a relationship because one thing I learned from being in entrepreneurship is that leadership has levels. There's levels to leadership. And the first level is position-based leadership. And so somebody can have a position as a father, as a dad, but that doesn't give you a right to lead somebody just because you have a title. Title-based leadership is the lowest form of leadership. So I knew that coming into my relationship with my son, that just because I'm dad, I just can't come in trying to control things. The second level of leadership is permission-based leadership. This is when people listen to you and follow you because they actually like you. So imagine me coming into his life trying to make change. He don't even know who I am. I got to build a relationship. I have to get a level of permission and understanding so that I can lead him and my words aren't just falling to the ground. And then the third level of leadership is personal self-development, production-based leadership. This is when people follow you because of what you've done for them. They listen to you because of what you've done for them. And then there's more levels, personal self-development, pinnacle, and all that kind of stuff. But for the sake of my child, I knew that those first two levels were important. The second level is important than the first level. It's not just me being dad. It's about me building a relationship to have permission to lead him, to give him guidance. Because I learned that from my experiences with him, when I try to lead him without relationship, it's friction. So I had to learn how to continue to do that. And so that's my boy. I love him. He's making like straight A's right now. He's killing it. He's doing really, really well. He's about to start high school this fall. Looking forward to that, which is crazy. I'm having a kid in high school, like mind blower. And then I have my son Keegan, who's 5. He's about to start kindergarten this fall. And then I have my youngest son, Kobe, he's about to turn 2. So all of my kids' birthdays are in July. So when July come, I don't need to talk to nobody. July 5th, 9th, and the 22nd. So ridiculous.
Man, so straight up boy dad. Oh man.
Yup.
We're gonna call them young men. I mean, we call them like it is. Um, so with that, you have the perspective of being a present father, being able to teach these young men about things that men go through, and not the other way around as far as having daughters and
Yeah.
having to teach that. So, how has that journey been for you thus far as your 3 sons, teaching them about what men go through and maybe even have to expect?
Yeah, man, I can speak for my oldest, Adam, because he is a bit more, mature, a little bit older. So me and him we have more in-depth talks than I would have with my 5-year-old or my 2-year-old, obviously. And so that process it's been different, to be honest with you, just because, like I said earlier, I wasn't in Adam's life from the time he was born up until now. So it's not like it's 14 years of me being a dad to him. It's only been like 5. And so one thing that I've learned is that you can't go back and try to make up for lost time. All you can do is ask God to redeem time, give you the time that you lost back, essentially, and to make up, not make up, but to make do with all the time that you have left today. So yeah, I missed the first 9 years, but what does 9 years compare to the rest of his life and the rest of my life? It's like a little blip on the radar. And so for me, with him becoming more mature, like I spend most of my time with Adam in the summers. That's when I have him because he lives in Hawaii. So we get together all summer from the time he get out of school till he goes back. And so those are the moments where we have some more tougher conversations, harder conversations about certain things. And I know that this summer now he's about to turning 14, going to high school. Now the conversations are going to be a little bit more deep because he has a different level of understanding now. He's been exposed to way more than we were exposed to when we were 14, just because of technology and things of that sort. And so it's going to be interesting having these conversations moving forward. But I do know that there were conversations that I wish I could have had with my dad that I could not have because he wasn't physically there. And maybe I didn't feel comfortable writing it in a letter or talking about it on a web or a Zoom call or Uvu or Skype or on the phone. I would have wanted him physically there to have this conversation. And so now that I understand these things, me having my son, I can give him those things that I know that he's yearning for, wanting to know about, that I couldn't ask my dad for. You follow what I'm saying? And so things done around like even sex. I didn't have sex conversations with any of my parents. Still to this day, we ain't had a conversation about sex. So they just see the results of sex from my children.
Yeah.
So me being able to have that conversation with him about things centered around that and just other topics, man, just being a man, standing on business. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I by no means want to take the rest of this time to go that direction, but I gotta put a small plug in there that for Walking with Dad, when the opportunity comes that I get a chance to sit down with plenty of men of the cloth, pastors, preachers, bishops, that will be a topic of conversation as to why sex is not spoken of and taught within the church, especially from the pulpit. This is 2024.
I'll be frank.
Okay.
Now, what I'm about to say, listen, the reason why I believe, so this is my opinion, my personal opinion, the reason why I believe that many pastors, bishops, people in the church don't talk about sex and things centered around sex is because they're still in bondage to it. So they don't feel comfortable speaking about something that they're in bondage to because it's not going to come off with a level of conviction and truth. It's not until you get free from something where you can openly talk about it. But when you don't openly talk about things like that in the context of church, you hurt your parishioners, you hurt the people that are coming up in there, because if they don't hear it from you, they got to hear it from the world. And now they have a worldly definition of what they believe sex should look like from watching pornography, Pornhub, and all this type of stuff. They draw their own conclusions about it because they never had somebody of the faith teach them about what it actually is and what it actually means and the spiritual ramifications that come from having sex. And so because of that, you have a generation of people who don't have a level of awareness about that, because the people that you would think should talk to them about it, they're still slaves to it. Hello.
Oh man. Yeah. And even with that, man, I still have to allow Walking with Dad to have those that opportunity of those tough conversations. I do appreciate that.
Absolutely, man.
And that could be a series on its own, but for sure appreciate that, man. Um so let's get out of there.
Controversial topic right there.
Hey, it's been some
Hey
tough
man, listen,
stuff.
from me being in the spiritual world, how I've learned a lot, man. And I've had conversations with people that, that you would think like, man, you should be good. You should, but they still go through battles, man. They still battle with stuff that hasn't been dealt with. And since we're speaking from like a fatherly place and we're kind of, in this place of talking about that, I kind of want to stay there just a little bit more because it's something deeper than we understand from father to son. So King David, great man, greatest king in the Bible. His name is mentioned second in the Bible outside of Jesus. So in the Bible, it's Jesus, then King David in terms of mentions of name. So that lets us know the greatness of King David. But King David also had a problem dealing with lust. This is why he slept with Bathsheba, killed her husband, and still had other side pieces.
Mm.
Know what I'm saying? And when he slept with Bathsheba, he was already married.
Yikes.
Still had other side pieces though, because your flesh will never be satisfied. But here's the problem: what we don't fix, our monster that we don't deal with, they always go to our children. So now watch this. His other son, Absalom, what did he do? He went and slept with all of his side pieces. He slept with his dad's side pieces on top of the castle for everybody to see it.
Yep.
What did his other son do? Solomon. He had 1,000 women.
Yeah.
When God said don't have any foreign women, he had 1,000 of them. Why did God tell him not to do that? Because they was going to turn his heart away from him.
Mm.
But my question is, what if David would have dealt with his devil in the dark? What if David would have dealt with his demons and his children couldn't see the effects of his life? They couldn't see, oh, dang, my dad got all these women. My dad got all these chicks. I wonder what Solomon's overall kingship would have been like, because his last years as king weren't great because he was worshiping other gods. He was building temples and altars for other gods where they would sacrifice children on these altars. This is the wisest, most wealthiest man to ever live, but he dealt with a devil in the dark that wasn't killed by his father, so it naturally kept going through the bloodline, because everything that we deal with is not physical, it's spiritual. And if you don't deal with your demons, your devils, your spirits, then they naturally get progressed to your children. So as a man, it's very important that we understand these things as we're having children. We have like small stuff, like even biting my nails. I used to bite my nails, right? And so I remember when I first started hanging around my firstborn Adam, I noticed that he was biting his nails. I'm like, dang, that's crazy. But here's what's even more crazy. My 5-year-old, who I stopped biting my nails a couple years ago, my 5-year-old, he now bites his nails.
Oh.
Crazy. Just something simple as biting your nails, pulling at scabs and pulling at hair on your face, like little ways to cope. So if they do things like that, how much more would a sexual spirit or something like that trickle down to the bloodline if biting your nails can go to the bloodline?
Goodness.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah.
We can get out of there now.
Man, just conversation with my wife, a joking thing, and then something else, man. Ironically enough, about King David, I was just like, I was listening to a sermon recently, and he was speaking of the fact that, you know, when people get to heaven, they always want to say, oh, I want to see this person, I want to see that person. He was just talking about how, like, this is the greatest time, you know, to be living, you know, as far as biblical times, right? And how we get to heaven, we would talk about, we want to see this person, that person. They're going to be in heaven wanting to see, talk to us about, like, we have the perspective of, hey, y'all got a chance to like experience walking with Jesus. How was that? They're going to have the perspective of like, how did you enjoy having the Spirit of God within you?
Yeah. Because they didn't have that.
Yeah. So I was getting ready one morning. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, imagine if King David would have had the technology that we had. And I'm gonna just leave it right there.
Hey, listen, though I gave that look. If that boy had Instagram,
I'm gonna just leave it right there. But the other thing is like just conversations with my wife about how like believers, there was a statistic that I came about recently that apparently like around 94% of believers who profess to be Christians and vice versa do not read the Bible. 94%. And it's like, you know, if people would just get into the Bible for what it's meant to be, as far as from a principality standpoint, instead of, oh, did y'all know that there were slaves in the Bible? And oh, this is why I don't read the Bible anymore and things like that. Because yes, as we're conversing right now, there are a lot of what ifs from the Bible, like a call that you had before as well. You were talking about belief and faith, about how imagine if Peter would not have gotten distracted. There could have been 13 people that were walking on the water because they would have followed that lead of him not getting distracted. Even that kind of takes me to good old American Gangster One of my favorite scenes from that movie is when the mother is talking to Denzel's character in the house, I think before he was about to do something, and she was just like, if you would have become a lawyer, all your other brothers would have been becoming a lawyer. If you would have become, this, they would have been that. But because you got it out there in those streets, they followed your lead. So even from a father or dad standpoint, that we have to also be conscious of the power of influence.
Yep.
Because somebody's looking up to you, like, you're fortunate. Well, I don't even want to say fortunate, that would sound very biased, but you have three boys. But imagine if you had even a girl in the mix that's looking up to you as dad, and the power of influence in that instance. So yeah, man, that's everything, man. I appreciate that, man. So yeah, man, we could bring you back for like a part 2 and part 3 that alone. But to kind of bring it back in, so you got your eldest, and then you have the other two who are a little bit younger, still teaching them along the way, but your soon to be high schooler is obviously further advanced in age. You're able to teach him some other things that the other two are not able to get just yet. So are you married?
Yes. Yep. Yep. Been married for 5 years now.
Okay, cool. So obviously doing the math, almost 14 and then 5 and 2. Are you also in a position of being in a cordial enough relationship with the mother of your child, or how exactly does that work for you?
Yeah, man, that's actually a really good relationship. And to be honest, that is attributed to my wife. My wife, without a doubt, is the reason why I have a pretty cordial, good relationship with the mother of my oldest son, Adam. Because she was like the mediator in the very beginning, because you gotta understand, like when I first found out he was my son, obviously there could be some tension, there could be some stuff like, yo, what we talking about? Like, so that's a whole nother story. But my wife, she was the one who was, because her personality, she just draws to people. She has such a big heart. She was able to, because I remember when I first told my wife that I have a child that might be mine, I showed her a picture and she was like, yeah, that's your child. I'm like, whoa, what you mean? And she was like, yeah, we got to make sure that you do the test and whatever, and it's gonna be love. And then when the relationship started to try to start off rocky with the mother of my child, my wife was there to make sure that everything was love. She was the one that was mediating and all that type of stuff till me and her got on really good terms, and we could have, good conversations and stuff like that. And sometimes they have conversations just about Adam without me, which is cool. So we do have a pretty good relationship. And then when I went through like challenging times and stuff like that, my baby mom, when it came to like, paying child support or supporting, because I'm not on necessarily child support, but I just always send money. When I went through like rocky times, she wasn't even tripping. It was love. And I think that's partly because my wife was able to mediate in the beginning. So when things came up, it was cool. It wasn't no pressure. It wasn't no, oh, you trying to la, 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 la. It was good. So shout out to my wife and shout out to the mother of my child.
Definitely. Shout out to both of them for sure, man. And to your wife for sure for having that positivity of a perspective as far as like stepping in and keeping things together. And how long have you all been together now?
Since 2019. So we've been married since 2019, but we met and started dating in 2017. So it's been like 7 years that we've been like together.
Cool, cool, cool. So how did that come about? Because you said that you were in college at the University of Tennessee.
Yep.
You're
So
from Georgia. And so how did
yep.
that play out?
Yeah, so when I finished playing football, I got involved in network marketing. And so when I was at a meeting, I see her at the meeting that I was doing a presentation for. But before the presentation started, I saw her and I told the person that I was with at the time, I said, man, I don't even know her name, but that's my wife. And he looked at me like I was crazy. Bro, you gotta understand, I had no interaction with her at all. None, zip, nada, zilch, swear. Like, I saw her through a glass window, didn't know her name. She was looking regular, degular, basic, no makeup. No, she wasn't dressed to impress. She was looking very regular. That's my wife. The dude looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, bro, I kid you not. And maybe a month later, we were dating.
Wow. And so I gotta ask because having had a bit of a network marketing background myself, would you say, or has she even ever admitted to you, was it because of natural born chemistry, or was it because you were on the stage?
It was chemistry, man. It was chemistry. I think when we went on our first date, we went to it was Carrabba's or Olive Garden. It was one of those Italian salad type spots. And I remember we went for our first date, bro. We got to the restaurant at like maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock, something around that time. We didn't leave the restaurant till 3 a.m. Listen, we were the last ones inside the restaurant. They closed at, let's say, 12 o'clock, something around that time. They came to us and like, yo, it's time for y'all to dip because they had cleaned up the kitchen and everything. No BS. They cleaned up the kitchen. They don't put the chairs on the table. Like they ready to go. We didn't have no food. We didn't even have no. They took our food, our drinks. Our table was empty. We was just sitting there, and so we went into the parking lot and we just continued our conversation. And on my way home, I knew that was my wife. And here's the crazy part. I had a girlfriend at this time who was living with me. Crazy, bro. And the girl wasn't just any girl. It was a girl who I had been with since high school. We talk about like 5, 6 years of relationship. What? But that one encounter, like me seeing her through that glass window, that's my wife. We go on our first date. We talked for like 8 hours. It was done. I went to the crib. I'm making up all type of arguments to get this girl about my house, and she's doing well now. She's married, all that kind of stuff. That was cool, whatever. But yeah, man, I knew immediately that me and her weren't meant to be, and I was supposed to be with somebody else. And it was just the divine feeling that I felt from the spirit, like this is the one. I felt like our spirits just naturally just meshed. And we were just talking the other day, and we've been through hard times like everybody else. Everybody go through their stuff they deal with. But we was just talking the other day. We was like, man, when the last time we had like a heated argument? Argue, we have a really, man, God has blessed us, man, greatly from our kids, our union, our personalities just naturally just mesh. And we don't like we have, people that we know and friends and associates and they talk to us about their marriage and we don't judge or anything, but we're just so grateful to God that our union is so blessed where after being together for 7 years, I'm talking about like, I can't think of a time where we was just, it's never been none of that. And every relationship that I've ever had, it was always that.
Wow.
Always challenges and all this type of just arguments and just small little stuff, man. Our relationship, we just mesh so well, real deal yin and yang. And so obviously, we got a long life ahead. Not to say that we never will argue, but for the past 7 years, there hasn't been a heated argument that I could pull up to my memory now. That's how little it's been. We're blessed. That's my wife. I love her to death.
Man, you did the biblical along the lines of Bob Proctor and David Emanite as well, that you had initially spoken it. And literally from speaking it, that it just basically became the reality for you. That she was your wife, that even from having to break it off with the other and then go through all of the past 7 years and everything, that man, that's powerful, man.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Ain't it something when you can just, for you, is almost, I don't know, would you say love at first sight for you?
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah,
It really
man.
was the first time. I didn't even think that was real.
Wow.
It's real. It's
And,
real.
and so what would you say that it was for you? Because you got a chance to actually sit down with her, date and everything, that y'all were able to build up on the chemistry. But what was it for you that like caught your eye initially? You said she was regular, she won't all dolled up or nothing like that. Like,
But it wasn't anything physical. I feel like my spirit just naturally just gravitate to hers. And that's all I can say. That's it. Because again, it wasn't fleshly. It wasn't a thing was like, oh man, I want to take her to the crib. It wasn't that. It was, wait a minute, I feel something. That's my wife. No context. That's my wife. And I even told her mom, listen, I told her mom maybe after about 2 or 3 weeks of knowing her and her mom, we was at an event. I said, I'm gonna marry your daughter, right? And she just looked at me like I was crazy. She didn't even know who I was. And my words proved me right.
Wow.
Your word is going to quit you, or what's the scripture? Your word is going to quit you or get you guilty or something, whatever it say. Condemn you or acquit you. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Your word is going to condemn you or acquit you. My words acquitted me, man. Real life worked.
Man, so it's been 5 years for y'all, and you had mentioned the network marketing background and experience for y'all. Did y'all work together within network marketing once y'all, obviously got together and got married?
Yeah, that was kind of like the that was kind of like the gist of our relationship in the beginning of working together, because that was the only type of business that we were both involved in. She was trying to do other stuff on the side, but she just kind of always came back to network marketing. And so we kind of built our previous company that we were building. We built it about 4 years together on and off. She would kind of take breaks and chill, and I would kind of do most of it, X, Y, and Z. But yeah, that was our experience of working together for the first time through network marketing.
Nice, nice. So, are y'all maybe not like you said, previous business or previous experience? Are y'all still in business together as of this day?
Not necessarily, not together. Well, I can't say together because I'm actually working on some new stuff that she is kind of like helping me build out. So I can't say yes, because at the end of the day, we do everything together. But she also does taxes. I have nothing to do with that. I don't even want anything to do with that. So yeah, she's starting a bookkeeping service and all that type of stuff. So that's kind of some stuff that she's doing her own. But when it comes down to me, she kind of helps me put things together for what I'm now venturing into, which is branching out into doing my own thing in terms of like speaking, hosting live events, stuff like that.
Nice, nice. And from what you had mentioned, as far as thus far, 7 years total, 5 years married, and then also the business aspect, what is beneficial for y'all to be able to work together? Usually it might be, one does something totally different, the other does something totally different, and y'all never even know anything about what y'all do, but y'all have an idea, especially because of that network marketing background. How beneficial is that for y'all to be working together, married?
Man, it's very beneficial. I think we both bring different things to the table that benefit our family. Like I just mentioned, my wife, she's into like the whole financial world, like taxes, bookkeeping, accounting, and stuff like that. And when we went on our first time experiencing like money was in network marketing. And we didn't have that part of it down. We didn't have the money management part of it down how we do now, because my wife, she went all in that area of learning that kind of stuff. And me, I don't really I care, but that's what you do. That's the benefit that she brings. Like she's my balance in that area. Because for me, I just want to make the money and invest the money into certain stuff. But when it comes to all the other stuff, like making sure your stuff is ready for taxes and bookkeeping and knowing what you're spending your money on, that's my wife. She handles that stuff. Me, I just want to make it and then put it right back into whatever I'm doing. And me, if I'm not careful, I'll over invest into certain things without even realizing that I'm over investing. Like I'm spending all this extra money on advertising, marketing, inventory. My wife be like, yo, you're spending too much on that stuff. And in your mind, you think like, I can never spend too much investing back into my business, but that's actually not true. You absolutely can, because the purpose of business is to have cash flow. The purpose of business is to make money to provide for your family. But if you're always over investing because you're so focused on making more of it not managing what's coming in, then you're just in a rat race. You got a glorified job.
X.
Yeah, Profit First. Profit First is a book that we read that changed our whole perspective about money and business. Profit First, really good book.
Do you remember who that book is by?
I don't know, I forgot his name, but if you, it's the only book named Profit First.
The only
So
book. Okay.
it's the only book named Profit First.
Profit first. Okay. Cool. We'll look into that. And so far, besides when y'all initially met up to now, what would you say is the greatest or one of the greatest experiences that you've been able to share with your wife?
The greatest experiences, without a doubt, is us having our children together. They're our biggest blessing, man, without a doubt. When we look at our two children, Keegan and Kobe, it's like it's never a dull moment with them. They're so active and joyful. And to know that you have these two humans that you created together and you get to not determine, but play a part in what their life is going to be by what you give them, by what you show them, the experiences that you show them, how we are with each other. They see this stuff, and so for us to be able to set that example for two who I believe are going to be leaders in the world and whatever they touch, whether it's business, sports, academia, it don't matter. They're gonna be them boys. They're both gonna be hymns. You know what I mean? Because of the fact of who we are as people and what we've learned, because we spent so much time. You mentioned Bob Proctor and just mentors that we've had, learning about the mind and learning about spirituality and learning about habits and all this kind of stuff, and just being the right examples and role models. And our parents, they didn't really understand this stuff because technology and information wasn't as freely given as it is today. And so when you recognize that we living in a different world and the way the world is set up now, man, I mean, yeah, man, without a doubt, our kids, biggest blessing, best experience that we had together. And I'll even throw this in there as well. And the reason why, so when our first son was born together, Keegan, back in July 2019, she has Keegan, and I will never forget this moment. Neither will she. She forgot part of the moment. I'm gonna tell you why. We have our son. Everything is fine. No issues. Everything is great. We're sitting in the hospital. We're actually planning to leave the next morning. We're sitting in the hospital room and we're watching The Thin Line Between Love and Hate. Till this day, I cannot watch that movie. We're watching Thin Line Between Love and Hate, and Keegan falls asleep, and she gives me Keegan, and I'm about to go put him in the bassinet in front of the bed.
Yeah.
I'm taking him to the bassinet, and I start to hear the bed shaking. I'm like, the world? So I turn around, look back. My wife is having seizures, foaming out the mouth, eyes rolling to the back of her head. The blood pressure, I forgot what it was, but it was so high. It was like 195, almost 200 over another high number. And I'm like, yo, what the world? So I go, I'm trying to like calm her down. I'm like holding her, like, yo, chill out, chill, like that. Found out that you should never do that while somebody's having a seizure. I didn't even know that because this was my first time even being around somebody having a seizure. So she's not stopping though. She's like convulsing and shaking for like 20 seconds. I'm trying to hold her down, like, yo, chill. And so I run out the hospital room. It's like 12 o'clock at night. I'll run out the hospital room, and it's like a scene of a movie. The hospital lights are dim, nobody in the hallway. I'm like, help, help. And next thing I know, I see nurses and doctors running around the corner. And it's like, what's going on? I said, my wife is having a seizure. And they go in the room and she's seizing. And they like stick her with something. She calms down. I'm thinking she's good. 15 seconds later, she's seizing again. I'm like, oh, snap. And the room is so loud. There's so much commotion. My son had woken up because I told you he had fell asleep. He had woke back up because it was so much chaos in the room. People are yelling and saying, yo, get this, get that. And the bed is shaking. So he wakes up. He's now screaming. So I'm like, yo, what in the world is going on? We got this little 2-day-old baby screaming to the top of his lungs. My wife is having a seizure. I don't know what to do. It's like 6 nurses in here. And so my wife calms down again. So I'm like, bet, she good. And it was like 2 minutes, she was calm. So I'm like, all right, bet, she good. She starts seizing again.
Goodness. Wow.
Start seizing again, bro. And the last seizure was the longest seizure. It lasted for like maybe a minute. And I'm just looking like crying. Like, what in the world is going on? Yep. So she ended up having 3 seizures. When she finally came to, she didn't know who I was. She didn't know she had a baby. She didn't know where she was at. And it took like maybe 30 to 45 minutes for her to realize that she had the baby, that the baby was born. Like, and I'm talking to the doctors like, yo, y'all sure she don't got brain damage? Like, I'm so scared, bro. I didn't think she was gonna be normal again. I've never been around people having seizures. She's had 3 of them in a 10-minute span. And the last one was a minute long. Blood pressure like 195 over something else that was really high. Everything was red on her monitors. It was like beep, 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 beep. I'll never forget the noises going off. Like, it's crazy. We spent 9 days in the ICU after that. 9 days. Yep. So that experience, man, it was one of those experiences that it just naturally just brings you closer because you realize like, dang, like she could have been gone. Pregnancy is something that men, we don't understand what a woman's body goes through. it's not until you're with somebody that's pregnant and you watch their whole pregnancy that you realize, like, oh, wow, this is a lot. And then when they get to the point where they got to actually have the baby, much respect to women, especially single women.
Mm,
Because when I be having my children, my wife's not around. I'm like, bro, how does a single mom do this?
mm,
Like, how do you do it? Like a single mom, there's a different level of honor that I now give them because of the experiences that I have as a father when my wife is not around. It's like, bro, y'all got to get two babies out the car at the grocery store. You got to get two babies dressed in the morning to go to school. And you got to work. And you got to cook. And there's no help. Man, shout out to every single mom.
man.
Any mom, but for sure, shout out to the single moms.
Yeah, for sure. We honor the mothers for sure, man. Is your wife okay now?
Oh yeah, she's great, man. She's great. Clicking on all cylinders. No issues. Hasn't had any. And in her second pregnancy with Kobe, it was clean. No issues at
That's
all.
good.
So, and that was something that we were actually worried about. I was nervous. Bro, can you imagine my anxiety in the hospital? So yeah, she was good though. She's good.
Did the doctors and nurses ever come to whatever caused it, or was it just literally because it was the
Yeah,
delivery?
it was something called preeclampsia.
Okay.
Preeclampsia is when they have like sodium or I forgot what it was, but it's something in their urine or in their blood or something that causes high blood pressure that leads to seizures. So when we had our son Keegan, we weren't supposed to have him the day that we had him. He was supposed to be like due like maybe a week or two later. But when she went to the hospital for just a regular checkup, they said, no, you got to go to the hospital and have this baby like right now. It was one of them moments. But we didn't understand the severity of it. You know what I mean? We didn't understand how severe it was until she started having seizures. But yeah, if she would have continued to, if she would have kept the baby to term, then it could have been way worse. Way worse.
I am hearing that the question that I asked initially, that y'all, both of y'all greatest moments together, even though they were separate, is the stories that y'all have to tell.
Mhm.
Because that for her, and then your experience from football. Because not everybody goes through experiences of that there should not be here. Everybody can say that,
Yeah.
but to the extent of what that means, y'all both have instances that y'all should basically, I'll say could, I don't want to say should, could not still be here.
Without a doubt.
Man, wow. Thank you for sharing that, because you didn't have to.
No problem, brother.
Wow, man. Every time I try to like keep some light, it's just it goes.
Heavier and heavier.
But I'll just ask you these real quick, because I don't want to have you, like I said, we could go into a part 2 and part 3 right now, but every about like 6 hours, be like, man, I didn't expect it. So what exactly, I guess career wise or profession wise, are you into or doing nowadays?
So currently, I have my brand. It's called House of Holy. It's an e-commerce brand. We have a very cozy pair of shoes that people are loving around the world. And we'll be going into apparel this fall, which I'm looking forward to. And then outside of that, man, my purpose while I'm on this earth is to do what Jesus did. I'm here to advance the gospel in different realms of the world, different avenues and worlds. So my specific lane is in the business and entrepreneurship world. God has given me a very divine gift to be able to go into his word, get something, pull it out and make it relatable to today's time, but also beneficial and practical to somebody that's in some place of business. And that is a gift that I didn't even realize that I really, really had for real. For real. I was just doing it. I didn't know it was, I just thought anybody could do it. But after doing it, I realized that what I do, people can't do. I'm chosen for this. I'm marked for this. I'm called for this. And many times we run from things that we're called to because of different reasons, whether it be, you don't feel like you're qualified for it or whatever the case may be. And for a long time, I actually avoided my purpose. I wanted to do all these other things, all this other stuff. But man, when God got a call in your life, that stuff won't work as well as you think it would in comparison to your purpose. And so me doing what I'm doing now, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Different avenues of doing it, whether it's through a podcast, whether it's through, me putting together a curriculum that people can learn from, me hosting live events, me speaking at other people events. Like I'm here to use my voice of communication to get people to see God, to see his son. That's what I'm here for.
So two things from that. The House of Holy.
Yep.
Is that spelled traditionally? How do you spell that?
House is spelled AUS.
Okay.
It's the German way of spelling house. And then holy, a lot of people have this misconception of what holy actually means. When somebody hears holy, they naturally think that it's something that's perfect. It's partly true, but it's not true wholeheartedly. God is the only person who's perfect, right? God is also holy. God cannot sin whatsoever. It's not in his nature. He's not wired that way. He can't sin. So that lets us know that holiness has nothing to do with sin because God can't even sin. Holy means to be set apart for a unique purpose. That's the definition of holy. Holy means to be set apart for a unique purpose. And everybody that is a believer is made holy through the blood of Jesus Christ. So that's how the idea of House of Holy came about, is recognizing that number one, I'm set apart for a unique purpose. And I knew that that language would speak to people who realize that they are also set apart for a unique purpose, but it has nothing to do with being perfect because nobody's perfect but God. And if holy meant to do with being perfect, then God wouldn't have allowed us to be perfect through his son, or to be holy through his son, I should say.
Mhm.
And that's how we're made holy. And so that's where the name House of Holy comes from.
Nice, nice. And then also what you had mentioned as far as your purpose in the speaking, and I think it was a couple of weeks, if not a month ago, you have Zoom calls or you've had them before as far as like, is it like a Bible study? Like explain what those are about.
Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily call it a Bible study essentially, but again, God has given me again a unique way of seeing his word and making it practical for people that are in our generation, people that are in different avenues of business or just life in general. And so I had in network marketing, I would do this call. It was called Mindset Master. I'll do this call every day. I did it, matter of fact, every Monday for 5 years. I did a call every Monday 5 years, rarely missing a Monday. It was only like a holiday or something that was whatever why I didn't do a call. And so I had took a break from it, man, over the past maybe like a year or so of doing calls just to kind of just work on me, my spirit, things of that sort. Me, so I can get fed, I can get full. And so I started back doing, or I did my first call a few weeks ago. Really good turnout, really good message. And I enjoy doing those calls and giving a word that I know came directly from heaven to me to give to people. And a lot of the things that I talk about, you can't go on YouTube and find this stuff because God has given it to me in such a unique way for people to hear.
Yeah, I had the opportunity of being on that call as well. It was impactful for sure. I had taken some notes. I was getting ready for bed at the time, so I did have to log off because you were up there.
Yeah.
You were up there, you were in that vein and you were in your lane, but I was just like, I gotta go to the work tomorrow. I was like, all right. But yeah, that was a powerful call, man. And with that, one of my last few things with you, man. Well, for starters, House of Holy, and then with those calls, those mindset, are you still calling them mindset mastery calls?
No, I haven't got a new name for it yet. So
Okay. So how can anybody tune into those calls and also be able to support House of Holy once you launch that officially?
for sure. So they can follow the page House of Holy on Instagram, House of Holy, HAUS of Holy, three underscores. It'll pop up on Instagram. And then in terms of my calls, they'll have to follow me on Instagram and just kind of be in tune because it's not like a schedule where I'm doing this every Monday again. It's just when I feel led to do something, that's when I'll do it. That's kind of how I'm moving at this point in my life. I'm not just doing things just to do it for the sake of activity, but I'm doing it for the sake of like, this is what I know God led me to give in this particular moment, which makes the message more thorough. It makes it more impactful and powerful. And so they have to just follow me on Instagram to get in tune to that. But I will have stuff that people will naturally always be able to tune into. And that's what I'll be working on throughout the summer.
Nice, man. And what is your Instagram?
My Instagram is my name, Riyad Jones, RIYA Jones.
And what does your name mean? You have a very unique first name. What What is the meaning of your name?
So, my name came from, it's the capital of Saudi Arabia, right? So my dad, when he left Michigan, the first place that he ever went outside of America was Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So that's where my name came from. And my name actually means paradise. That's what my name means. Funny story, when I was in Chicago one time, I got into the Uber and my Uber driver was from Saudi Arabia. And so when he saw my name pop up on the joint to come pick me up, he naturally thought that I was like from the Middle East. But I was a black dude getting in the car. He was like, "You're Riyadh?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Man, do you know what your name means?" I said, "Yes, the capital of Saudi Arabia, blah, blah, blah." He said, "No, no, no." He said, "Man, your name means paradise of the heavens, paradise of the gardens." And so later on, as I got more revelation from just God, a garden is a natural producer of things, producer of beauty that other people benefit from. So when I think about me as a person, I'm a producer of things that other people benefit from.
Goodness. You about to take us into a part 4 and 5. Oh man, that is deep, man. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Goodness. There's scripture of it, and I cannot remember exactly what it was, but it speaks of the meaning of names. I think it might be in Proverbs, maybe. And that takes the cake right there.
You'll
That
always live up to the meaning of your name. I don't know if that's the scripture, but that's context. I know what you're talking about, but every person will live to fulfill the meaning of their name. That's why in the Bible it was so important that when God gave somebody a name or somebody was named for something, they lived up to it. Like Abraham meant father of many nations, but he didn't have any children. But God changed his name because that's what you're gonna live up to. Yep.
yeah. And even um but the three Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but
Yep.
how most people don't refer to them as those names because those were their
That
slave
was their
names.
names. That was their
Yeah.
slave names. Yep.
Ah,
The meaning of the names is so important because it's your identity. And so when was it Nebuchadnezzar or whoever the king was at the time, when he gave them their new names, it was to strip away their identity.
all right, man. I see where you're going. But like I said, I didn't want to remember. I wanted to remember this point. I did not want to forget it. One of your calls I had tuned into from maybe a couple of years ago from when you were steadily doing your mindset mastery calls. You had spoken of a point about Noah and how in business, but maybe even relative to fatherhood as well, or just in life, that Noah, yes, he built the ark and he built it with a certain community of people. But if he had to do it again, if God had called him to do it again, he'd be able to do it again with even a separate set of people because from that first time, he knew how to do it. I don't know if you're able to, I don't even know, put a 2024 twist or input on that, or even if you remember when you had spoken about that.
Um, I don't. But here's what I will say. To your point, anytime you've done something, it's evidence or it should be evidence that you have the capability of doing that thing. And when you know how you did it, it should be very simple for you to do it again. So in Noah's case, he built the ark, and if you read in the Bible, it don't tell you that he built it with other people for real, for real. It just says Noah built the ark, he built it, whatever, whatever. But logically, you know that that can't be done alone, right?
Yeah.
So if Noah had to do that again because he got direct instruction from God on how this ark was supposed to be built, the next thing that he needed was people. And so here's the funny thing or interesting thing that I always talk about. God values partnerships. It's one of his values. He values partnership. And we can see that from creation. When God created the heavens and the earth, and the water was void, the earth was void without form, and darkness covered the deep. Who came down from heaven? Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit was governing the earth during creation. When it was time to save mankind from sin, he had another partner, himself, his son, Jesus, that he sent down to die for our sins. Anytime God did something on earth, he utilized human capital. He said, Moses, I'm going to free my people, but you're going to do it for me. I'm doing it, but I'm sending you to do it. Moses probably said anything like, what the hell you need me for? If you gonna do it. No, he needed human capital. Noah, I need you to build this ark because you are going to be the savior of mankind. Without you, if you don't do this, then everybody goes away. So I need you to do it, right? And I can just go on and on with how God utilized people to get a task done because he values partnership. So going back to Noah building the ark, there were partners that he was able to leverage to do that. He couldn't do it alone. And so it's one of the values of God in general, partnerships, leveraging the efforts of other people to get a job done.
For sure, man. For sure. Well,
I hope that answers your question. I don't know if it did, but I can't remember what I said on that call. But I hope that gave some context.
I would have to say, even if it didn't, you given enough today. Oh man. I would have to say for anybody who's tuning into this, if they came in empty, they're definitely leaving full. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your time and everything that you shared. If I could ask of one more thing from you,
Absolutely.
for any of the younger fathers, anybody who is considering becoming a father, and even somebody who is a father or a dad, and they might not have an existing strong relationship with their kids as of right now. What is a one thing that you can share with them, word of wisdom, some advice to share with them right now?
So if I had to say something to a father who currently does not have a relationship with a child currently or as strong as they would like, I would say become very intentional about doing that. Here's why. Because your child, whether it be a boy or a girl, when they don't experience the love of a father, there's a void that's unexplainable. They won't necessarily be able to explain wholeheartedly how they feel without you being present. So when you start to feel that and you give them the love of a father, thank you, Holy Spirit. When a father gives their love to their child, it helps them get a healthier view of what God is. When somebody does not have their father, their view of God is not as healthy because we call God Father. And so if I don't have a healthy relationship with my father, it's hard for me or harder for me to view the heavenly father in the lens from which he should be viewed from because my view of my physical father is distorted. So if you don't have a healthy relationship with your child currently, I would say, man, become intentional about working on that. Seek God for wisdom about that so that you can be present in their life because you don't know what you're missing and they don't know what they're missing by you being absent or by you just not being present wholeheartedly. I know that we have things and experiences and situations with mother of child and all this type of stuff. But man, when you become intentional in your walk of trying to be a father, God is going to be the one that opens the doors for that for you. You don't have to worry about any negative ramifications of that from a baby mom or whatever. Man, just become intentional about trying to be a dad and watch how God begins to open that door. But it may not be as quick as you think. That's why you have to be intentional in your walk. And as soon as you feel like, oh man, this ain't working, and you give in to the thoughts of the enemy, he can't open that door for you. You have to continuously seek that, and God will open the door without a doubt.
Man, that's a great point for us to in the church they would say close, I guess you could say. But, man, I definitely appreciate that. Walking with Dad appreciates that, man. Once again, thank you for your time, your expertise that you shared with us today. And man, I thank you for everything, man. All the stories that you shared and all that, man. But Walking with Dad, if you gotten some value today, I'm in good gosh, I'm trying to close out everything. But definitely if you got some value today, please like, comment, subscribe, go follow Riyadh on Instagram, House of Holy, also on Instagram, and also from anything that you gained today, if you have received something from what was shared, please leave a comment in the comment section. Share with somebody else. Like I said, like and subscribe to the Walking with Dad community, Walking with Dad page. And until next time, I ain't gonna say that somebody else is gonna have it hard after Riyadh, but until next time, I'll see everybody again. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for having me, bro.